The primacy of elegance. There is a question that keeps coming back. Every time you walk into a room and sense that someone occupies it differently from everyone else. Every time a garment seems to look at you rather than be looked at. Every time a person moves through a space and leaves it changed. Who is elegant? What I mean is, which people carry this thing in the blood, not as fashion, as destiny. Because true elegance is always a destiny, something one does not entirely choose. It is inherited, breathed in, worn like a mother tongue, without thinking, and yet always. Let us look. The French. We begin there, because it would be dishonest to pretend Paris does not exist. A French man of a certain age, navy blazer, white shirt unbuttoned at the top, shoes worn for 10 years, Paris, any cafe. He reads, turns the page, picks up his coffee, all of it with a naturalness that seems performed. And it is performed, but so well that it amounts to the same thing. This is the French greatness. They know that elegance is a performance, and rather than being ashamed of it, they carry it forward with absolute seriousness. The French woman does not dress to please. She dresses to declare. There is something martial about Parisian elegance, a statement. I exist. Look at me, but look at me with respect. Chanel understood before anyone else that true elegance comes from removing, not from adding, the black, the simplicity, the line, the minimal gesture that says everything. A legacy Paris still carries, in spite of everything, in spite of the tourists, in spite of the fast fashion stores along the Rue de Rivoli. The English are another matter entirely, another species almost. English elegance is the elegance of someone who is not trying to be elegant. That is the trick. The Prince of Wales check, Harris tweed, leather shoes that creak just slightly. The Englishman of a certain tradition dresses as though he is about to head out to the countryside, even when he is lunching at a Mayfair club with the king. There is something deeply aristocratic in this. The true aristocrat has no need to prove himself. He simply is. Dressing becomes therefore almost a form of withdrawal. I have dressed this way for 100 years. My father dressed this way, my grandfather the same. Tradition as invisible armor. And then there is Savile Row, that narrow street in the heart of London where a tailor still takes your measurements with an almost religious care and builds you something that will outlast any relationship you are likely to have. The garment as identity document. England understood something that very few understand. Absolute quality of material, worn with absolute indifference, produces an effect of elegance that is impossible to imitate. It is like a deep voice. Either you have it or you do not. Then there is the Habsburg world, and here things become complicated in the best possible sense. Vienna, the uniforms of the imperial officers, white and gold, decorations as architecture worn on the body. There is a German elegance, or rather a Middle European elegance that is rigor made form, aesthetic order, beauty as discipline. Think of an officer in Franz Joseph's service. Everything in its place. The braid, the saber, the gloves. Nothing superfluous. Every element with a function, but every function carried with a grace that transforms the function itself into ritual. And there is also a civil German elegance that tends to be forgotten. The Bauhaus taught the entire world that form and function can be the same thing, that simplicity can be the apex of sophistication. A piece of furniture by Mies van der Rohe and a Hugo Boss suit from its finest years share the same mental architecture. Austerity as luxury, rigor as ornament. I am gathering these reflections for a book on exactly these themes: elegance, style, the identity of peoples, the ways in which civilizations incarnate themselves in how one dresses, moves, occupies a room. It is work that takes me across Europe with open eyes, and what I am about to say is perhaps the most important thing I have understood so far. Every people I have mentioned has something true, something authentic. The French, the consciousness of elegance. The English, its proud indifference. The Germans and the Habsburgs, rigor as a form of respect for the world. But then, which people is the most elegant? The honest answer is that I am biased. I admit it. I smile as I say it. And yet even the fact of being biased deserves a closer look. Because Italy is geographically, historically, culturally, the place where everything converges. Mediterranean and continent, Orient and Occident, Greece and Rome, Byzantium and Venice, Northern Europe and North Africa. The peninsula is a synthesis, not a confused mixture, a synthesis. Like a great cook who takes the most different ingredients and produces a flavor that is new and yet in which you can recognize every single note. Italian elegance carries within itself something French, that aesthetic consciousness, that certainty that form matters. It carries something English, that quality of materials, that artisanal solidity still alive in Naples, in Florence, in workshops whose signs have been forgotten but whose hands have not. It carries something Habsburg, Trieste that still smells of coffee and empire, Milan with a civic composure that resembles Vienna more than Palermo. But then it filters all of this through the sun, through light, through that sense of beauty which in Italy is almost biological, almost a reflex of the nervous system. The beautiful as primary necessity, before comfort, before utility. A man from Naples who dresses to go out on a Sunday morning carries centuries on his back. He does not know it. He simply does it. A tailor in Florence cutting cloth carries in his fingers a memory that reaches back to the merchants of the Quattrocento. A woman in Rome choosing a color at the market makes an aesthetic choice with the same naturalness with which she breathes. This is the Italian filter. The best of Europe and the Mediterranean passed through a civilization that placed beauty at the center before anything else. Before power, before philosophy, before morality, sometimes. I am biased, but I am biased for good reasons. The finest elegance is the kind that forgets itself, that becomes gesture, breath, habit. In Italy, this still happens. In the markets, in the streets, in the workshops. In spite of everything.